you're listening to Paul Anderson. This is the Sideshow Podcast.
And welcome to another episode of the Sideshow Podcast. I am your host, Paul Anderson, and this week we're going to be talking a little bit about traveling. Some of the travels I've been on and some of the places I would like to go to. I'm actually excited about this, and it's going to be a good show this week. But first things first, as always, this episode is brought to you in part by Lyft. Become a Lyft driver today. Start up being a Lyft driver for $35 an hour. Drive your own car. And, pretty much sign up to be a Lyft driver today. Enter the promo code SCISHOWPC to earn a $500 first-time driver's bonus. It lets you pick your own hours and be your own boss. And also brought to you in part by iTunes. If you want to become an iTunes member, just sign up today. As well, you can also buy movies, you can also buy music, books, anything pretty much that you'd like to use on your Apple products you can use today. Over on www.sideshowpod.com, you can go over there and just click on some of the accounts and see some of the deals that are going to be coming through. So this week our show, like I said, is about traveling. Some of my favorite places I've been to, I'm going to talk about, and I definitely can't wait to talk about some of these things because, I like traveling. Me and my fiance, we tend to always pick a trip every year, and we end up deciding where we want to go, and we're still up in the air about where we want to go this year. I've thrown a couple ideas out. She has too. And I know we are planning a wedding at the same time. So being from Massachusetts, one of my favorite places I've personally ever been to, I'll start it right off, is Boston. I love Boston so much. Boston is one of those unique places because you get to see so much history. I feel like the history of Boston definitely takes root to. Oh. And we got a little guest today again. Hold on. Get out of here. Boston is definitely one of my favorite places, like I was saying. If you've ever been to Boston, there are different areas that have, I don't want to say demographic, but definitely they show culture for sure. If you go to the north end of Boston, it's very Italian and European based, which I love. We go there all the time. We end up over at some of the great bakeries like Mike's and Modern Pastries. Those are some of our favorite spots to hit up when we go out there because usually me, my fiance, and my parents actually we end up in Boston. We go to all these great restaurants, and you can definitely tell it's almost like that home feeling. Italian cooking is probably one of my favorite styles of cooking. Gnocchis is probably potato gnocchi is one of my favorite meals to eat when I'm out there, or a good chicken or veal marsala. I love I appreciate their cooking because you can definitely tell they're using really fresh vegetables, herbs, and all that good stuff. So you definitely take it in as an experience. Plus, you go out there and you have a lot of great drinks and that too. One of my favorite restaurants that we went out there was one summer. Me and my fiance, we ended up going to. We went out there just to walk around, and we ended up at this restaurant called Mother Anna's, and it was wicked nice. We ended up outside. It was you could oversee the whole city. The price was, the price is what it is. You're in Boston, you're going to be paying premium prices, but at the same time, though, the meal was fantastic. We returned there a couple times. It's probably it's right in the front of the north end of Boston if you're ever there. But moving on, definitely, some of my other favorite spots out in Boston are Pocari's Coffee. Salumeras is a deli that has all these great cheeses and Italian cold cuts, and they're super delicious. We usually get those around the holiday time, and we indulge. It's such a good time too when we do that. Definitely, they have it's called Salomas. Salomas is it's their butcher, and they make the fantastic food. Definitely, like you pack it up. Obviously, you're gonna pack a cooler or something like that, and you walk back to the car. You put it in there. It's cold in the winter when we do this, so it's definitely worthwhile. So it doesn't go bad because you're spending good money on good quality meat, and they do a lot of their stuff like that. I mean, if you like hot sausage or sweet sausage, I mean, they're fantastic for that. They make everything homemade. All the ingredients are put into it. So we enjoy that. That's one of my favorite places in Boston for sure. We've ended up, but then you move into like the south side of Boston where you're right by the TD Garden. You go over to the Forest Boston and definitely have a few drinks and some appetizers and stuff like that. We go out there. We've been there a couple times just to go and soak in the experience. Because if you're a sports fan, like I'm a sports fan, then you'll appreciate some of the what they have going on in there. Because you walk in and like I have pictures of it. There's like a picture when you first walk in. You look to your left and there's this big massive photo. It's a picture of Bobby Orr in his heyday. Pretty much, we call it the hardware photo, and the hardware photo pretty much is him with like the Norris Trophy, the Stanley Cup, the MVP, like everything that he's ever won in 1 year. So it's like that's pretty cool to see, because not many players, being a great like Bobby Orr was in his day, to see photos in history like that, you definitely it's cool to see. Just you never see that photo anywhere, and I have a couple photos I've taken obviously with my phone or my good camera I have. Definitely really a good experience. They have so many things in there, just signed memorabilia, and it almost reminds you, but it's not as tacky because this place has been around for such a long time. It reminds me of like when you walk into like a Hard Rock Cafe and you see all the memorabilia everywhere, but this is just primarily Boston type stuff. But they do have some other ones too, like some Blackhawk jerseys and whatnot. It is a sports bar, so, but it's not. I mean, but the thing is like this is like one of a kind type of deal. So, if you're ever in the south end of Boston and you're up by the TD Bank Garden, definitely go check out Forest Boston. It's a really good time, and it's been voted one of the best sports bars in Boston on several occasions. So, definitely check that out. We also actually. One time, this is another good story. One of my aunts, she lives in one of the brownstones in Boston, and we ended up. She suggested we go to this great bar that was out there, and it was called the Wink and Nod. The Wink and Nod. Me and my mom's boyfriend, where we love, like I've said it before in past podcasts. I love Scotch. I love whiskey. And I love indulging like that. It's such a good time, and it's one of my favorite things to do. But we went there before her Christmas party one time, and it's called the Wink and Nod. You can look it up on Google, or they're on Instagram. I know that. Check them out. It's fantastic, especially if you're a whiskey lover. And they literally have a great selection of Scotch and whiskey. What I like about this place too is like if you're going there to eat, and it is high. It is a very classy place. I will admit this. They like everything they do between the bitters that they make homemade and all that stuff. They literally they take good pride in what they do, and like their kitchen is amazing because like every 6 months what they do is it's called a rotating kitchen. So they'll have like a company come in and work in their commercial kitchen and cook for 6 months, and it's kind of like on a contract. But at the same time though, every time you kind of go and visit that place, like let's say you go like between 6 months, you're going to be trying something new. That's kind of like the downfall. It's like, man, they had really good food that one time I went, and then if you go back, you may not like it as much, but you get to try something new every time though. So there's the trade-off right there. But yeah, that's another one of our favorite places to go when we're in Boston. Like I said, it's called the Wink and Nod. You can look it up on Google or Instagram, or they're out there. You can definitely check them out. But yeah, Boston, man, has always been one of my favorite places. I love going to the Red Sox games and being over on Yawkey Way. That's a very That's a very chaotic time to go, especially where, when the Sox are in town, it's at another level. Especially if you're not from Boston and you're trying to Fenway is one of the oldest ballparks in the United States, next to I think it is Wrigley Field. Those two are the two original left, so it's kind of cool, So that's a little bit about Boston. I mean, it is the capital where I live and all that stuff. So it's something that I truly appreciate, and I love it. I mean, if I can go, I mean, I've said this before, and I'll kind of say it again, is that the thing about cities and me are I don't want to live in a city per se. I love to visit them. I would visit them all the time and drive in, park, go have a good old time, and then go home. But to live there, it's a little bit different. You have to. It's a lot more expensive, and it's a big sacrifice too, especially if you're not lined up financially to live there. So but it's a beautiful place. It's beautiful year round. I mean, it's a different form of culture. I mean, I'm from the suburbs, and it's definitely different. But going into another one. Speaking about cities and stuff like that, one of my other favorite cities that I love to visit. I visited a few times, and actually this past year, me and my fiance, we made our pilgrimage up there. It was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let me tell you something. Philly is one of these places that if you've never visited, you should. I mean, I can't say it's like the cheapest place to go and visit for a city or anything like that. I mean, the drive is a little bit chaotic. I'll be very honest with you. I mean, that's what it's about. To me, is like when you're driving like for us, we're driving from Massachusetts. So you have to drive through Massachusetts. You have to drive through Connecticut, which is a long drive. Then you have to drive all the way through New York and then into Pennsylvania. Oh no, then you have to hit Jersey and then Pennsylvania. So when we were driving. I mean, you hit the George Washington Bridge, and that's just shell shock, especially if you've never driven it. And my fiance, she was a little bit surprised on how that worked out, and it was one of those moments like, holy shit, I got stuck driving home, but it wasn't half as bad, getting out. But getting in, we got lost, and it was a little bit chaotic. But once we got to Philly, though, and we parked and everything like that, we ended up actually. We got ourselves situated. We got parked, and we checked in our hotel. The people there were very nice. I think we stayed at a Sheraton. I'm not 100% sure. I know it was just this. No, we stayed at Hilton. I'm sorry, because I still get emails from them. But yeah, we stayed at a Hilton, and the people there were very nice. The price that we spent per night wasn't too bad. They were really very respectful of everything. They knew, like, when we kind of got in there, like, we weren't from Philadelphia or the area really. And we started talking, and a little bit of the jabs about the sports and stuff like that. Once they found out we were from Massachusetts, and it was all cool. But I mean, talking about the culture, though, I mean, people there were very nice. I mean, I won't talk about the first 5 seconds of when we actually hit Philly because it was hilarious, but I was a little pissed off, but it is what it is. But yeah, so we get there. The people who let us at the hotel were wicked cool. They told us a couple of great spots. They were telling. I figured there was one of those, like, the hotel will speak up for the little man and stuff like that. But I mean, I always told my fiance about Pat's and Gino's, and I told her, hey, we're going. I have not had a Pat's steak and cheese in years, and this, that, and the other thing, and it was one of my favorite places, and it definitely didn't let me down. I mean, I was happy. Go out there, you see all the pictures on the outside, and it was a really cool experience. So yeah, but one of the first, let me back it up a little bit though, because that was a little bit later on in the day. But we ended up actually at the Reading Market, Reading Terminal. Let me get that right. We started at the Reading Terminal, and that place was cool. I mean, it was a giant marketplace. Go around, look around. They had like coffee. They had like fruits, vegetables. They had meats and a deli. They just had a lot of handcrafted type stuff, and that was definitely something cool. It did remind me a little bit about Boston, because when we parked by the Haymarket in Boston, they have something similar. But Reading has been around for such a long time, so I think the idea kind of came from that. But very similar when we go. So. We went there. We had a coffee. I think we had a little bit to eat while we were waiting around, just looking around. And they had a lot of. It was busy though. That was a thing. Like they just had so much different things going on. I mean, they had Indian food. They had Vietnamese, Korean, like different types of Asian culture type food. They had everything under the sun, and it was all under one roof, which was really different for me. So, I think we had, while we were in there, we had these like really cool like pretzels when we were there, and they were wicked good. Definitely. But if you do visit Philly, I mean, these are kind of the spots to check out, and it's worth checking out if you've never been, for sure. But we were what I was saying though, we ended up there. We went to Pat's, had some lunch over there later on. We ended up at this bar, I think, later on in the night. And they had the one thing I liked about Philly, but it's definitely gotten a lot better, with when I was out there one time, they had Yingling, and I was like, they finally had brought it up to Massachusetts in the recent time, and I'm like, I hadn't had a Yingling since I was in Philly, and that was one of those things. But now I actually go out there. We go to this restaurant. We have a little bit of dinner while we're there, and we're sitting there. And I order a hard cider, and they had this one by a company called Cigar City Cider, and I swear to God, it was called Cigar City Cider Apple Pie, and this stuff was delicious, and I have yet to find it. And so, if anybody ever goes out to Philly and you can find some for me, I'd be grateful for that. But I've been looking everywhere. They don't ship it up to Mass yet. They're from, I think, Tampa, Florida. I've done some research trying to figure out how the hell I can get it up here. But it was really cool. It was wicked good. So, Cigar City Cider, it's a real thing. If you get a chance and you're out in the area, definitely try it out. I'm all about it. But while we were out there, I don't think I actually got to drink any scotch while I was out there, which surprised me. We were doing a lot of the touristy type stuff. I know. Oh my God, the Liberty Bell. So if you've never visited the Liberty Bell, okay, let me tell you something. Okay, go with nothing, because I swear to God, they're pretty much like strip searching you for a 5-second look at a bell. And don't get me wrong, I love the history behind it and everything like that, but it was just hysterical to see the process of, all right, you're going to wait in this line, and then, all right, literally like strips, like here, give them all your stuff. They put it through X-ray, and, you read all the walls and all that stuff, and it's cool. And then, boom, the bell's right there. And it's like, holy, like, really? It's one of those, like, you literally, like, have, like, 10 minutes of getting checked for 5 seconds of looking at a bell. But I've seen it before, and it was really cool, and my fiance had never seen it, so it was worth the trip in there. But across the street, though, we ended up actually, more times than not, when we were in Philly, every day we were almost back by the Liberty Bell, because we kept stopping at this coffee shop that was across the street called La Colombe. And La Colombe is a coffee company, and they're around. They're in Philly, they're in New York, I think they're in Boston now. I actually just found some of their stuff actually at the supermarket recently, which is very unusual for me to see something that was cool. But let me tell you something. If you've never heard of them, YouTube them, look them up. These people know their shit when it comes down to coffee, and it's delicious. And it's something different about the way they do it. And they actually they do a cold brew coffee that I literally crave for, because it's so damn good. And it doesn't taste like your usual coffee or a cold brew coffee that you get like from a Dunkin's or a Starbucks or any of that crap. Like, it was just something that was out of this world. And they had coffee there that they roast themselves with dates and all that good stuff. And it's cool to like try all that. And we ended up going back there every day and just grabbing an iced coffee from there. Like, you just couldn't, like, yeah, they had Dunkin' Donuts and stuff like that, but it was like you don't go to Philly to go and drink Dunkin's, where you can go, any half inch around Massachusetts, and you have a Dunkin's on every corner pretty much. So you don't do that in Philly. it was just, oh my god, it was just one of these, it was one of my favorite things about that place now, and even to this day, if I can find one, I'll probably end up going out of my way to have their coffee. It's just that good. It's called La Colombe if anybody is interested in coffee and trying out new things, or when you're traveling and you come across these places, definitely write them down. It's worth checking out for sure. But yeah, oh my god, my trip to Philly, I mean, we were there for 3 days. We went Friday, Saturday, and we drove back. We stayed most of Sunday and drove back. So we definitely filled in. We did we did the Rocky statue. We actually took a night tour, which was really, really different because it was nice and quiet. The roads weren't too slammed with like tourists or anything like that. It was very calm. They were having a little bit of a thing. They had worries because around this time when we were there was a lot of protesting with Black Lives Matters and all that stuff. But they were cool. They were a little hesitant. But the night before, I guess that's when all that stuff was going down. So they ended up doing the tour, and it was fun. It was a really good time. They drove us around like telling the history. They talked a lot about. They talked a lot about Drexel. They talked a lot about the other surrounding colleges that are in Philadelphia, and we also went to two other really cool places. Like I said, if you do travel, definitely check these places out because I think it's worth the what we paid to get in on some of them, and it's definitely worth the time to do it, especially if you have kids too. Some of them are different. Like we ended up going. Another one we went to was the Franklin Institute. It's almost like the Boston Science Museum, but it's way better and it's way bigger. And we spent hours and hours. We spent hours pretty much just like walking around that place, looking at so many different things, just playing around, and they have a lot of interactive stuff. I think that was a really good deal for what we paid to get in. I think it was less than $20. So to go and be in a major city and go look at it, but the place was really cool. You walk in, like one of my favorite things about this is like if you've ever been to DC, like the thing about DC is like you see all like the memorials and monuments and stuff like, and it reminded me of the Lincoln Monument. Now, the Lincoln Monument, you walk up and you see the big guy on the chair and all that. Well, when you walk into the Franklin Institute, they have something similar, but it's with Ben Franklin. And it is incredible to see. You can walk up, touch it, take pictures with it, and they have all this really cool stuff. I mean, the place is breathtaking. It's huge. When we were there as well, we saw this other couple. They were talking with somebody about planning a wedding there. And it's a very nice scene to go and do that type of stuff. So, I mean, you must have money to do that, but at the same time, though, it's wicked cool. We played around. I mean, we ended up learning a lot about, playing with like the gravity stuff. They had a very like cool sports interactive thing. It is top to bottom fun. And another, I'm not quite sure if it was there, but I think it was. But they have a part of it where you go up and you pay a little extra money, and you can do this like thing where you're like on this bike and you go back and forth, but you're on a cable, and it's kind of cool. It's more. I think that's more for the kids to kind of play with. Like they strap you and there's a catch net and stuff like that. But you really can't fall. It's for safety measures. But they have they have this thing where you just you ride this bike on a cable back and forth, kind of like a trapeze act. Not trapeze act. What the hell is it? A tightrope act. Yeah. So that was something we saw while we were out there. What else do we see? Oh my god. I'm trying to remember. I didn't really jot too many notes on Philly. I didn't think I was going to go into it that much. This one was really neat. The Mutter Museum. So one of my things that I'm really kind of like, it's kind of an interest, and I like looking at is like they have like taxidermy and just different like oddities and stuff like that. And for me, oddities are. They're unique, like they had the skeleton of one of the world's tallest men, and to see stuff like that, I feel is really incredible. Now that is you pay to get in and all that good stuff, but like that was I think that was like created by a doctor, and they have like it's just so many different oddities. Like they have like the skeleton, like people. A lot of it's donation based too, mind you. Like I don't think they go out of their way and they spend money on these things. Like they bring in they've had a lot of these artifacts, and you can tell like they have a lot of like geriatric skulls. They have child skulls. They have like a lot of it's donated to science, and this is part of it. It's just display, and you can kind of go in there and see all of these unique things. Like, and some of them are kind of gross. Like, I mean, they had a thumb with gangrene, and not to gross anybody out or anything too bad, but yeah, they just had so much stuff in there. Some of it was a little inappropriate for children, as long as they don't know what they're looking at. But I'm trying to think. Like they had skeletons of animals. They had a lot of skeletons of like different aged men and like women. You could see like the differences. It's very incredible. A lot of bone type stuff, but they also had a lot of stuff in jars. If you're into the oddities, definitely go check out the Mutter Museum. It's a little freaky, but at the same time, it's super cool to check out. Yeah, I mean, that was Philly. I mean, Philly was so cool, man. I mean, that was one of my favorite trips I've ever taken, and I was happy to take it again too. But as well, I'm gonna kind of I talked about two cities that I really liked visiting, and now I'm gonna kind of back it up. I'm gonna move it into a little bit of a different part of the world. Is when we went to there was this one time we traveled out to the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire isn't too far from Mass, and for a lot of people that may be listening, it could be very far for you, but it's definitely they had a lot of cool things going on out there. Very very country-esque, if you will. Not city-like at all. Like literally the complete opposite of anything. Excuse me, take a sip of coffee. Yeah, but they definitely. We had a good time out there. We ended up walking. If anybody, like I said, if you're not from Mass or if you've never been up to this part of the world. The White Mountains in New Hampshire are wicked cool because like we ended up going to this thing called the Flume, and the Flume is like it's literally it's all natural and it's been created, and they were able they made steps and all this stuff, and you walk through it, and it's this rock formation that's just completely beautiful. It is, in my opinion, probably one of the most breathtaking things to kind of look at next to Niagara Falls, if you ask me. And that's the next one we're going to talk about. But for now, the White Mountains, we did that, and that was a really good time. I did that when I was actually really little, and it's a long walk. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not sure if it's free or if we paid to get into that one. I'm not 100% certain on that. But yeah, we went to. We also, while we were out in the White Mountains, we ended up taking this long road. It's called the Kangamangas Highway, and hold on. Actually, you know what? We're gonna take we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after this message. Sideshow PC is brought to you in part by Lyft. Make up to $35 an hour driving your car. Sign up to be a Lyft driver today. Enter the promo code SideshowPC to earn a $500 first-time driver's bonus. It lets you pick your own hours and be your own boss. And iTunes. Enjoy the movies, enjoy the music, enjoy your books, and some apps to play. Use the promo code 1001LV8T. This will help the Sideshow PC keep the lights on. And welcome back. And now, so we were talking a little bit about my travels here on the Sideshow PC. I am your host, Paul. And yeah, so we've talked a little bit about everything from Boston to Philadelphia. We talked a little bit about the White Mountains. Yeah, so I'm going to back it up a little bit. I did miss one thing that I thought was, I'm surprised I forgot because it was one of my favorite parts about going to Philly was Eastern State Penitentiary. If you've never ever heard of Eastern State Penitentiary, it's actually really a cool. It's a cool place to go and check out. That one has a lot of history. I love taking pictures there when I was there. They had a really good tour when we were walking around, and pretty much what they did, we went around actually around Halloween time, so they had like a nighttime scaring thing, which was a little fun. But we went there during the day, and they give you like an audio tour, and it's really cool because like Steve Buscemi did the voicing, and you walk and you just enter the code, and people who either worked there in the past or were actually like prisoners there in like the 70s before they actually shut down the penitentiary. They do a very good job of trying to get the history out about this place, and it's considered actually one of the most haunted places in the United States. So, I mean, we were there. We got to actually walk in like the jail cells and see a lot of things, go on the catwalks and stuff like that. And let me tell you something: it's worth the history lesson and seeing the bones of an old school prison. It was really cool. You could definitely feel that prison vibe, and definitely worth checking out. So I just wanted to actually back it up a little bit and go with that. But on this half of the podcast, I'm going to be talking a little bit. I was going to talk a little bit about some of the places I've wanted to visit. I'm going to start this first one off to a place I have visited, but I want to visit the other side, and that's actually Niagara Falls. Me and my fiance 2 years ago, we ended up going to Niagara Falls, and we were on the Buffalo side. Well, I don't want to call it the New York side, we'll say, not Buffalo, but we were on the New York side. And because we don't have passports right now, we're working on that because I know eventually we're going to be going on a honeymoon, and we would rather have all that stuff squared away. So, but we've talked about going to Canada, and I would love to go to the Canada half of Niagara Falls because I've heard it's nothing but a party, and it's a really good time. They have some really cool stuff going on that side. And we're missing it on this side, too. So, totally an experience. I've heard a lot, seen a lot, and I want to go myself. That's definitely on my list of places I personally want to go and visit. So another place that I really would love to experience is the I want to go to Washington D.C. I've been to Washington D.C. once, but it wasn't like we were there to stay. We were there driving through, kind of going to Washington, D.C., because we were on our way down to Virginia Beach. And I wanted to go to the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian in Washington, I would love to go and experience the Washington, D.C. thing all together. I've never been. Making a trip down there I think we're leaning toward that for this year, which would be a fantastic opportunity to kind of go do that. Because if you've never been to the Smithsonian, which I haven't, but I've done some looking into it, you don't have to pay. From my understanding, it's a free museum, and it's big. I mean, it is very big, and you could spend a week there and still not cover everything, which is really kind of like what I'm trying to get out of a trip, is doing something where it's like, you spend hours on end and just have a really good time doing that. I am like growing up, like I was always kind of like a history buff. So going and doing a lot of these things like old school Philly, old school Boston. I've been to New York, and I've done I've walked up the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building and got to learn a little bit about the history about those type of things. And like, I've always been a history buff. So visiting those type of things makes sense. And I know my fiance, she loves looking at some of these things too. I mean, I know she's not the biggest history person altogether, but she appreciates it for sure. So it's kind of cool for both of us when we go there and enjoy ourselves. Yeah. I think another place I personally, like, if I could leave the country and go visit, I would want to leave the country and go visit something like London, England, maybe. That would be cool. I think anywhere in Europe would be really cool to check out. I've never been, and it's been one of those like priority type things. Like, I want to go there. That'd be cool. Europe is fun. Ireland would be fun. Scotland would be great to go check out distilleries. I would like to check those type of areas out. Go to the motherland of amazingness, if you will. Italy would be cool to check out. Italy's like I said, I went on and on at the beginning of this podcast talking a lot about the North End of Boston, how much I really appreciate their culture, definitely. So to go to the motherland and try their foods and their drinks, and I think it would be a very, very enrichment, if you will. I think it'd be enriching. I don't know. I'd love it, dude. I mean, checking out like Sicily or Rome would be really cool. Italy is not the biggest of places, but it would be really cool to go and try out what they have going on out there. They could obviously tell, when they have an American coming through, but it'd be cool. Let's see, anywhere else. I mean, if I could travel within the states, though, I'd love to go check out Los Angeles or California in general. California would be really cool. I'd love to go down to the Grand Canyon. Would be really neat to check out. See one of those marvels. That would be kind of fun to experience. I don't know what's going on around the area of the Grand Canyon. I mean, to fly from, I wouldn't drive, trust me. I'd fly from Massachusetts out to that area. I would be very wondering, okay, I'm going to go out there, go look at the Grand Canyon, then what's next? So, yeah, I mean, so that's a lot of the places that I actually do want to visit. But other than that, though, I mean, I have a lot of ideas coming up, and I hope to do another one of these, talking about places I've been to, and, even give an update. I mean, when I try something new and I go somewhere different, I definitely want to cover my travels. And to keep a track of what's going on, you can follow my personal Instagram over at Bud, B-U-D, 53189. You can also follow me on the show. The show is Sideshow PC, and that's over on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. You have any questions or ideas for future shows? Shoot me a message on Facebook. You can shoot me a message over on my email, which is sideshow508@gmail.com. I definitely love hearing feedback from people who listen to this show, and it means the world to me when I do hear feedback. Negative, positive. It don't matter what it is. I love the fact that people are actually going out there week by week, and I keep seeing the numbers go up where I'm hearing and seeing the viewership. So for that, I do thank you. But until next week, stay tuned, and I actually have a really good show coming up for us next week. So take care, and thanks for listening. Today's podcast has been brought to you in part by Lyft. Make up to $35 an hour driving your car. Sign up to be a Lyft driver today and enter the promo code SideshowPC to enter a $500 first-time driver's bonus. And iTunes. Enjoy movies, music, books, and apps like I do? Use the promo code 1001LV8T today, and it'll help out the show by keeping the lights on. And in other news, don't forget to pre-order Lions Line's new record, Monument. It's out April 21st, 2017. Their first single, Stand By, is available anywhere music can be found. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, in other news, Josh Herzer, one of our past guests, has recently released his very first song over on YouTube called Matriarch.